Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, still with you, and we are now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest for this afternoon, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our journalist. A very good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon to you, Angie.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time this afternoon, Mr. Ramzy. Let me start by asking you, how do you see the latest laid out plan by U.S. President Biden, where he detailed a three-phase Israeli proposal for a ceasefire in Gaza in return for the release of Israeli hostages, and saying that it has won positive reactions from Hamas?
It's a very interesting proposal, Angie.
Yes.
I'll tell you why it's so interesting, because Mr. Biden came out saying that this is a proposal, this is an Israeli proposal, and now it is time for Hamas to accept it. Then he spends the rest of his speech yesterday trying to convince the Israelis to actually accept their own proposal. And that was very interesting. The other interesting thing about this proposal is that it's very close to the proposal that Hamas already accepted, which is a three-phase proposal. During the first phase, there will be a partial exchange of prisoners. The second stage will be all about reaching an agreement on a permanent ceasefire. And then the third stage, of course, is the rebuilding of Gaza. Now, what is terrible in the proposal is one thing. You cannot link bringing in 600 trucks of aid to the Gazans to an agreement with Israel over a ceasefire, because the Palestinian people are not a hostage of Israel, where they can actually blackmail and say, well, if we do reach an agreement, then we will allow them to eat, or we will allow them to have access to medicine and medical care. And this is ridiculous. This should not be part of any proposal. This actually not abiding by this and not allowing the aid to come in is a war crime.
Absolutely.
And Israel needs to stop its war crimes in Gaza. But absolutely very interesting scenario. And of course, most interesting of all is Netanyahu coming out this morning with a statement on X, stating that Israel has not retracted from its goals of the war that it will achieve before a permanent ceasefire occurs. And of course, its goals are the destruction of Hamas's abilities, etc., etc. We all know them. We've heard them over and over and over again. Yes. So if that's the case, then this proposal is a no-go, because this proposal is all about a ceasefire. It's about the end to atrocities, and therefore Israel is saying we will not do a ceasefire. We will not end atrocities until we destroy Hamas or whatever goals that they are pushing on the table.
As you said, a very important issue that was, discussed or announced was that Palestinian civilians in the first phase would be allowed to return to their homes, and 600 trucks a day would bring in humanitarian aid into the devastated enclave. And in this phase, Hamas and Israel would negotiate permanent ceasefire, etc. Now, how on the ground, where are they from any sort of negotiation for a permanent ceasefire?
Nowhere near that, because that would be something that would start in the second phase. And during the second phase, Netanyahu can easily renege on the commitment to continue the second phase. Therefore, we can go back to war in the second phase. And this is basically what has been pushed, even with the older proposal that looks very similar to this one. So there is no agreement in this proposal on a permanent ceasefire immediately. The thing that Hamas is betting on, or the Palestinians, if you like, or those who support the Palestinians, is that the Israeli army is facing major issues internally. We have only 42% of officers in the Israeli army who are willing to continue working for the Israeli army or being employed by the Israeli army. Only 42%. This is historic, and it is devastating for Israel. The Israeli military leaders are shocked by it. And there is major resistance within Israeli society that is growing very fast.
Yes.
So basically, what the Palestinians are betting on, and of course Qatar and Hamas and Jordan and all of these countries, is that if there is a ceasefire, a temporary ceasefire, a ceasing of action, and the Palestinians are able to go back to their areas where they were living in, despite the fact that they are totally destroyed. So they will be not in their own homes. Most likely they will be in tents.
Tents, yes.
And the aid comes in, etc. Then what's going to happen is that many of the Israeli military members may refuse to go back to war. And Israel is forced then to really and truly negotiate a permanent ceasefire. And there are signs of this. There are signs of this. So there is merit to this. But then we all know that what Netanyahu is saying, and he said it yesterday. He said that all of the proposals that have been put forward mean that Israel has been defeated in this war. And we will not accept defeat. And it's true that with all of the fabs that Netanyahu pushes around, this is true. Israel has not achieved one victory inside of Gaza, and if a permanent fire is reached, then definitely Israel has lost this war. And the Israeli people will also conclude that Israel was defeated, especially 8 months after the 7th of October, and not being able to deliver anything. They have not been able to bring back the hostages home alive. The only hostages that they are able to bring back home are the dead ones. They have not been able to destroy the armed resistance forces, all of them, none of them. Militarily or even politically. And they have not been able to dismantle the leadership of these resistance forces either. So basically they've achieved nothing. And this is basically what Netanyahu does not want written in history, that after eight months of war against Hamas. There is another thing that I would like to mention, which is right out of the Israeli press itself. Because we are hearing the Israeli journalists now and analysts coming out with analysis that is a little bit more accurate and objective than it was for the past 8 months. The question that was actually discussed in the Israeli press is that if Hamas, which is the weakest of Israel's enemies, was able to defeat Israel, then where does this put Israel in the region? And this is a question that is very accurate. I don't think that Israel can ever go back to the status that it used to enjoy.
Before, yes.
That whole perception that Israel is the strongest power in the region has gone down the drain. And that whole perception that armed resistance cannot actually achieve anything has gone down the drain. And therefore, what Israel really needs to do, if Israel had any strategic plan, is to actually start walking towards a two-state solution, because this is the only way out. So what the Americans are proposing and talking about, and what the Europeans are trying to pressure Israel into, is actually for the sake of Israel. And the problem that they are facing is that this right-wing government that is led by Netanyahu, but pretty much a hostage of Ben Gvir and Smotrich, who are very right-wing fascist people, that this government is not actually working for the sake of Israel. This government is working for on the premises of an ideology that is extremely radical, and it has nothing to do with the actual benefits of Israel or the safety of Israel or the future of Israel.
Absolutely. Finally, Mr. Ramzy, another issue lacking when it comes to this latest release by President Joe Biden, by the U.S. President, is the mention of a two-state solution, the recognition of the Palestinian state, etc. No mention of this is made whatsoever.
Absolutely. Even Obama, who came out with a major statement in support of Joe Biden and in support of this, did not even mention the two-state solution or call for a two-state solution. He was talking about something that is totally ambiguous, such as the peace for both and meeting national aspirations, the possibility of that happening in the future. But step number one right now is to feed the Palestinian people and to make sure that the aid comes in. But then again, as I said, this cannot be part of a proposal.
Whatsoever.
This is a war crime to not to allow aid into Gaza is a war crime.
Absolutely.
How is this a proposal? Accept my proposal and I will allow your people to survive. This is ridiculous. But even Obama fell into that trap. Or maybe it's not a trap, but this is like basically they are actually blackmailing humanity, if you like, against all international law.
Yes.
But yes, there is no promise. And with all honesty, Angie, I did not expect a promise of a two-state solution as part of a proposal, because Israel is not even willing to reach a ceasefire rather than to
never mind even a recognition. Yes.
A two-state solution.
Yes.
And also the other thing that we have seen, Angie, is that all America has ever asked Israel is to promise to start negotiations over a two-state solution, never to commit to a two-state solution. America has not demanded that Israel must commit to a two-state solution. And even when they linked it to normalization with Saudi Arabia, the Americans basically declared that the Saudis are fine and they will proceed with normalization with Israel if they see a roadmap towards a two-state solution, not after a solution is reached.
Right. So
and
indeed,
therefore, is putting that kind of pressure on Netanyahu and his right-wing government.
Indeed. I'm afraid we'll have to leave it at that. We have run out of time. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Mr. Ramzy Khoury, our journalist and our guest for this afternoon, and wrapping up our edition.